And that way, not every single sentence has to be a conditional format, right? Which can get tricky. Okay, so let's first go into our today's lesson. I want to show you two different questions that are related to travel in particular. Okay, so let's look at our first question here. It's a part 2 question. Describe a journey that didn't go as well as planned. And you should say, now right away on this question, didn't go as well as planned, right? So we're looking into the past tense. This whole thing is talking about something that was in the past. Now you should say where you were going, which is going to ask you for past tense. Answer. And past continuous, right? We were going to, we were on our way to. How were you traveling? Okay, we were going by bus. We'll look at different types of travel today. But again, how were you? Where were you? Your answers need to start out in the past tense. Whom were you with? Okay. What went wrong? Again, past tense. And explain what you would do differently. In this case, you could be using different forms of the conditional. If you talk about the third conditional, if I could have back then, I would have done something different in the past. That's third conditional, which we'll look at. So that if you could have made a different decision in the past, what would you have done using all past tense? Okay. If you're talking about next time what you would do, then you're using second conditional, right? If I could do it again, I would, and then you'll talk about what you would do differently the next time in second conditional, okay? Now, it's really not that important whether or not you identify, and you're not going to have time to think grammar in your head. In speaking especially. Writing, yeah, you have more time to think grammar. When you need to come right out with your answers in speaking, you can't be doing grammar equations in your head, right? So it's not that urgent that you are thinking, is this second or third conditional? It's that you can use either one comfortably. Okay, we're going to do an exercise later today, which is mixing the second and third conditional within the exercise. And you can use second or third, but you have to follow what the rules are for whatever one you choose to use. Okay, so again, don't be thinking too heavy on grammar. I don't like to press grammar rules too much on my students because it can lead to them speaking robotically as they're thinking grammar in their head. So we're going to try to make it by the end of this lesson that you're using those conditional phrases naturally. All right, and it's really not that tricky. The worst thing you could do is overthink it and then start making mistakes. Okay, so this question for travel is asking mostly about past tense, things that happened already, and you're describing what happened in the past. Now let's look at the next question. Describe a motorcycle, or bicycle, motorbike, or car trip you would like to go on in the future. Okay, this is talking now about if you could, where would you go in the future? Again, you can use the conditional, of course, in this case. Now, second conditional is going to be using conditional for situations where there's a possibility this could happen, but it's not sure that it would happen. So if I could go to Paris, I would go to the Eiffel Tower. Not sure that I can go, but if I could go, right? But you can also easily translate this or transfer this into the future tense, right? In simple and not using the conditional in that case. And we'll look at how you can do that as well. All right. So first of all, in this particular question, it's asking you, where would you like to go? First of all. Okay. Now, in that case, you can use the simple present if you'd like. You have that auxiliary modal would. I would like to go to France. Okay. Now, when you give your reasons, that's when it's very easy to switch over to the simple present, right? For any of these answers, we need to back them up with one or two good reasons and examples if necessary. So in this case, where would you like to go? Well, if I could, I would like to go to France. Okay, that would be conditional. But now I want to go there because France is beautiful. France has beautiful architecture. All right. There are many places, natural places to travel and sightsee in France. That is all now present tense. We're going to see a sentence in just a moment, how we can switch out of that conditional when you're giving your reasons, right? So start with conditional, then switch into the present tense. Let's look at another question here, another suggestion. How would you like to go there? Okay. Well, I would like to go there by plane because planes are fast. Planes are comfortable. Okay, so you can switch it over to that simple present if you'd like to. Do you have to? No, you don't. You can definitely stay in the conditional and say, well, going by plane would be better because, right? And on a plane, I would be able to. Okay, so again, it depends on what type of sentence you're using, and also using that modal auxiliary could or would in the present tense. We'll look at that in just a moment. Okay, who would you like to go with? Whom would you like to go with? I would like to go with my sister if I could, because she is very easygoing. We'll see an example for that exact question in just a moment. And then explain why you view. So keep your ears on after this. When the next slide comes, then you will use these collocations in a sentence so that I can hear them. Okay, let's look at the first collocation here. Travel documents. Travel documents. Now, this is something that could definitely come up, especially when you're talking about what went wrong on a trip. So many times it is travel documents that go wrong. Now, what are travel documents, first of all? Well, travel documents are documents that you need before you travel. And a lot of people think they are only referring to just your passport, right, or your identification. But no, they also refer to your tickets that you might need for travel. Okay. Now with COVID-19, our example here, COVID-19 has increased the amount of required travel documents. It's anything that's necessary for you, especially to do overseas travel or get on a plane. But it could be domestic travel as well. It could be bus tickets. It's anything necessary that you need in order to travel that's documented. Okay. Usually, again, people think about passports when they talk about travel documents, or they think about tickets for the plane, right? It could be also your check-in booking info for the hotel, all right? Visa information that you might need if you're going internationally. All of these things are travel documents, and definitely something that could go awry if you're talking about why a trip went wrong. Okay. Air, rail, and space travel. Now, today, the question is pretty specific about if you could go anywhere. The one that's asking if you could, it says it's motorbike, bicycle, car. However, the question about something that went wrong on a trip, definitely, that could be any trip you've gone on. That could definitely deal with air or rail travel. I don't think it would deal so much with space travel, obviously, but just so you can see the collocations here. And here's a sentence for you. Air travel, again, can actually be cheaper than rail travel. All right. When giving options, are you talking about what kind of travel you would do and giving reasons why? Right. Well, I would go by bus because, or I would go by train because rail travel can be cheaper than air travel. Right. Overseas international travel. When asked what type of travel you might do, feels like overseas travel has never been more difficult. Again, especially now with COVID and everything, right? Leisure travel, holiday travel, business travel. This could be talking about a trip that you've gone on before. Holiday travel with children can be stressful. And travel arrangements or travel plans. Again, this definitely fits into the idea of something that would go wrong or went wrong on a vacation. The example here would be making travel arrangements with your spouse can also be stressful. Okay, so we had children the first time, the second one, your spouse, right? Your husband or wife. Okay, so let's try this first set. I'm just going to go through these nouns. I'm going to have 5 of you practice this. And then when your name is called, you need to use the collocation you see. in a sentence. Now, of course, if it's air, rail, space, choose one. If it's overseas, international, choose one or the other. You only have to give me one sentence. All right, so do listen for your names, and let's go to our next slide. Oh, travel agent, the person who helps you. A travel agent can be invaluable when it comes to obtaining a visa for a foreign country, or a travel agency. Okay, again, travel agent, the person who books your tickets, also the person who can plan your tours, and the person who can arrange your visa and passport details as well that you might need in order to travel. Okay, so first, travel documents. Viet Ang, are you there? Viet Ang? I don't hear from you guys. Okay, can you please use travel documents in a sentence? Before we go on to vocabulary, I'm going to try an experiment with you all. So please follow me along as we go over to a Google Docs page. I'm going to invite you onto it, and you are collocations. Again, we'll see the collocations. You'll see an example, but stay on your toes, because after you see these examples, you're going to have to give me a sentence if I call on you. Let's go. I thought it was going to happen, and it didn't. Here it goes. There it goes. Okay, travel abroad. Of course, you guys are familiar with this term, traveling abroad. And students, when you give me your sentence, you can definitely change if you want the order of the words. Also, you can change the verb tense. Traveling abroad can broaden your cultural horizons. Okay, the idea of broaden your horizons, this case, specifically your cultural horizons. This just means that it's a figurative term of speech. That means it expands your knowledge, if you will, okay, on any given subject, to see or learn more than you knew before, to broaden your horizons. In this case, broaden your cultural horizons. But that term, broaden your horizons, is very often used when we talk about studying overseas or travel in general. Okay, our next term is travel on business. Okay, the reason I put this one in there is that on, right? So you're not going to be, the preposition there is often used incorrectly. So if you're traveling on business, your sentence would look like this. Fewer people travel on business these days, as it is more efficient to have online meetings with clients. Okay. So again, this term, travel on business, the question wouldn't even have to be about travel. In what ways is the internet useful? Well, people don't have to travel on business as much as they used to. Okay, so these terms can be used in more than just for travel type questions, guys. Travel on business. Okay, travel on business. Travel around, travel across, and travel through. Now, the reasons I wanted you to see these prepositions is that they definitely all, across and through, more similar meanings. Around, definitely a different meaning here. Let me give you one example. We traveled across, or we traveled through Cambodia and Laos to get to Vietnam. Okay, and now that means you're going directly across or through the country and coming out a border on the other side. Okay, to travel across or to travel through. All right, especially the term through, meaning that you are going to get to a border and then go on to another country. You see this a lot for European vacations, where you have so many countries stuck together and people travel through one to get to the other, or travel across one. Now, traveling across doesn't necessarily mean you enter into another country. For example, many people like to travel across America. It's very expansive, right? Or travel across Russia. Right. It would take weeks just to do so, but you're traveling across and staying within the parameters, within the boundaries, right? Within the borders of that country is travel across. Travel through means starting in one country, going through another, and popping out the other side. Okay. Now, travel around is more general term. You're in the country and you're sightseeing and you're going from place to place, is to travel around. Okay, so again, across, going from one side to the other, through, crossing borders to somewhere else. Travel light, to travel light. This means to not pack as much luggage. In fact, travel light means to pack very little luggage. You'll see by the sentence here. Backpackers travel light in order to be more mobile. Okay, so again, to travel light means not to pack much clothes. To be more mobile means easier to move around. You're not lugging heavy suitcases onto a bus or every motorbike that you go on. You just have a backpack and boom, you can go. To travel light, not bring a lot of luggage. Okay. Now, the next one you should know, but it's amazing how often I see this used incorrectly or spoken incorrectly by my students. To travel by plane, car, boat, or train, use the preposition by. If you're going walking or you're hiking, you're traveling on foot, on foot. Okay, so by plane, travel on foot. If you said travel by foot, grammar's fine. We understand what you mean. You're not going to get the points you'd get by using one of these other collocations. Okay, because you're not sounding like a native speaker. You travel on foot, you travel by plane or by car. Okay, it seems like my students always know that, especially if they write down, but when they speak, then they start to travel by foot again. So travel on foot. I find that no one can better appreciate the intricacies of a city, but that one can better appreciate the intricacies of a city by traveling on foot. Okay, the intricacies, another great word, intricacies of a city. This could be used in a lot of your speaking answers. Intricacies mean the small points, the small details of a city, right? So by walking and going more slowly, you can see those fine details. You can see those intricacies of the city, okay, on foot. And remember, on foot. Then you can by traveling by plane or by car or by motorbike. If you travel on foot, you can see the details because you're going more slowly, of course. Okay, and I think I have one more here. Let me see. Travel the world. Okay, now travel around the world is often used by my students. That's not wrong, but most native speakers would use this term something like this. I hope to travel the world while I'm still young. Okay, where's the around? We often don't use it. When you say travel the world, it means the same as to travel around the world or to many different countries, but you can just use it simply as travel the world. I hope to travel the world while I'm still young. Students, take one last look at these examples and these collocations, but they're all travel-related words that will definitely help to improve your band score. Please notice the way they are used in the sentences too here. Okay, so that when you attempt to use them, you can use them correctly. I will be asking you guys about these afterwards, so do pay attention. All right, let's go to the first one here, accommodation. Okay, the first thing I want to say to you before I read anything here is that accommodation is uncountable. Okay, for example, while I'm traveling, my favorite types of accommodation are hotels. Now you notice they use types of accommodation. Types is a classifier here. When we have an uncountable noun, for example, like advice, or in this case, accommodation, if we want to make it plural, we have to put a classifier in front of it. In this case, types of accommodation. Or if it was advice, pieces of advice. We don't have accommodations. We don't have advices, right? So again, while I'm traveling, my favorite types of accommodation are hotels, types of accommodation. Okay, accommodation is just where you stay during your travels. All right, doesn't have to be hotels these days, especially, right? Airbnb, hostel, anywhere that you stay. Okay, as you see there, a room or building where you stay during your holidays. All right, let's go to our next word here. Also, accommodation. Accommodation, before I go to the next word, I want to get the pronunciation across to you. I'll slow down more on these academic words because they're a little trickier than those other words we just saw. Accommodation, accommodation. Please repeat after me when I say that. Accommodation. It's second syllable stress. Accommodation. Accommodation. And you also have a stress the second to the end. So accommodation. Accommodation. Okay. All holiday. Okay. This is a travel term that I'm throwing in there. It's loosely related. I saw it there just so that you know what it means. All holiday means that you don't really have any responsibilities that you're tied to. For example, he lost his job yesterday. Now it's all holiday for him, meaning that he no longer has that responsibility. You could say the school term ended, or he just graduated from school last week. Now it's all holiday for him. So it could be a time after you lost your job. It can be a time after school, or you're graduated from school completely and you're done with school. Okay, all holiday. All inclusive. All inclusive. And here the word inclusive. Second syllable stress, inclusive. Inclusive. Okay. A hotel deal where the price includes accommodation, so where you stay, meals, and drinks at any time. All right. So all-inclusive deal. You'll hear this quite often when people go on tours. They get an all-inclusive deal. All-inclusive. It means everything's a package deal. Another term for this, a package deal. Okay. But package deal could be just flights and hotels, but not necessarily meals and drinks. But all-inclusive means everything is thrown into the price. For example, I've never thought that hotels with all-inclusive service are so comfortable. You can grab a piece of cake at 6 a.m. or get a cocktail at midnight. I would change that to we're so comfortable. Okay, all-inclusive. All right, another term you might not be familiar with is half board. Half board. If you request half board at a hotel, the breakfast and dinner would be included in the hotel price as part of the package. Okay, that's half board. You notice there's no lunch involved here, so it's the breakfast and dinner that's included. Now you also have full board. Okay, if you request full board at a hotel, that includes all three of your meals. So half board is breakfast and dinner. I would even go so far to say is half board can be breakfast only. And when you book online, especially if you're using a service such as Agoda or hotels.com, oftentimes you'll see that breakfast is thrown in with the room. That could be considered half board. Whereas full board is definitely all your meals. So that was going to be breakfast, lunch, and dinner is a full board. Full board. Okay. I want to try just two of these with you guys. I'm going to go to accommodation first. Remember, accommodation, accommodation. Hit those two syllable stresses, especially the last one towards the end. Accommodation. Let's try that one first here. Self-catering. A self-catering deal is a holiday deal where the meals are not provided. Self-catering. Catering. This means that you need to find your own food, of course. And again, it's a holiday package deal here. Again, a deal. So just like an all-inclusive deal, this is a deal that doesn't include the food, but it might include the travel and the hotel, just not the meals. Again, so if it's self-catering, it means that you need to find your own food. Mary thinks that self-catering is neither pleasant nor efficient. Okay. To book something means to arrange and to confirm a place, a hotel, or a ticket for an event in the future. Okay, and of course the past tense is booked. And I want you guys to try to say booked because it's a K-E-D. So it's a K and then the T. Book, K is back here and the T, E-D, T is in the front. Booked, booked. Try to say booked. Say it to yourself, booked. We booked a hotel yesterday. I booked the tickets yesterday. It's a k to booked, booked. And of course, present tense is just book, to book something. Usually though, we will say in past tense, have you booked the tickets yet? Yes, they're already booked. Okay, the t at the end. If you book your plane tickets in advance, they will be much cheaper. Okay. A breathtaking view is an amazing view. Okay, breathtaking. Try to say that. Make sure you get the TH at the end of breath. I'll say it again for you. Breathtaking. Breathtaking. Okay, try to say that one more time. Breathtaking. Tongue needs to come out a little bit on the first word there, right? Breath, breath, breathtaking. Okay, a breathtaking view. I've seen many breathtaking views during my journey to Paris. Sitting down is a breathtaking experience. Breathtaking experience. Nicely done. Good sentence. Thank you. Okay, let's continue on with a few more here. Getting away from it all. Okay, this is a great term that you can use. It's not exactly an idiom here, but it's figurative speech. It is figurative speech, and it would help your band score to sound more like a native speaker. So to get away from it all, in this case, getting away from it all, escaping in order to rest from a daily routine. Okay, so you're getting away from your routine at work. It could be from your routine at school. Okay, so why do you want to go on vacation? Well, I really just want to get away from it all. Okay, for example, after I passed my exams, I wanted to get away from it all for at least a couple of days. Okay, to sort of refresh your mind, erase whatever it is you've been worrying about. Okay. Get off the beaten track. This again is an excellent term for you to use. Be careful. This again is a term I see misused quite often by my students. Okay, to get off the beaten track is to visit an uncommon place. It's the opposite of what we'll see later, going to a tourist trap. A tourist trap is where almost all the tour buses always go. If you pay for a tour even if you're traveling on your own, a tour guide will often take you to where all the tourists usually go. But if you get off the beaten track, can also be the beaten path. Either one is okay. Get off the beaten track or get off the beaten path is to go to a place when you're visiting somewhere that most people don't always go visit. Okay, that's not as common of a tourist attraction as other places might be. For example, unlike my brother, I prefer to go off the beaten track and walk down the alleyways of big cities. Okay, so I'm not just going to see the big sights and the statues. I'm going down the little alleyways, looking how the regular people live, but I'm not on that tourist trail. So I'm getting off the tourist trail, or I'm going off the beaten track. Okay, getting off the beaten track. Guided tour. Okay, you know what this would be already, I'm sure. A tour in which a group of people is guided by an expert. Now, be careful. This is a great word for you to use when you're talking about what kind of trips you like to go on. You know, a lot of people either like to travel on their own, get off the beaten track, or to opposite of that, go on a guided tour where you have somebody to tell you what's going on, what you're looking at, and to take you from place to place. Okay. A lot of older people prefer guided tours because they don't have to worry about getting lost and things like that. So there's definitely benefits to guided tours. Okay. And some people like to get off the beaten track, which is the opposite of that. Guided tours are a great way to learn about different places of interest, okay, because you're having somebody explain to you everything that you're seeing. To head for means to go in a direction of or for. For example, I'm heading for France for my next holidays, okay? A question you might often get is, where is let go? A tourist trap. I hate tourist traps. Tourist trap is a place with many tourists, and that's a very general definition that I pulled offline today. A tourist trap also tends to be very overpriced, and it tends to be overcrowded. Often this says with many tourists, but it's a trap that they take you there. For example, I avoid tourist traps, should be an S there. I avoid tourist traps because they are often overcrowded and overpriced. Again, that should be plural. I avoid tourist traps because they are often overcrowded and overpriced. Okay. Short break, a little holiday. If you're going to say, what are you going to do next week? I'm going to take a short break. A short break could also refer to taking a short holiday. My father had a short break this year. I hope you'll be able to relax some more. Okay. It's a little holiday that's not as long as you'd normally expect. I only had a short break for Tet this year. I only had 3 days off. Okay. So it's a short getaway, not as long as maybe you hoped for, a short break. Stunning landscape. This one's right in there with breathtaking. All right. Especially describing why you want to go somewhere. A beautiful countryside is a stunning landscape. Stunning landscapes are only one of many reasons why I want to visit Africa. Okay. Stunning. Try to say that to yourself. Stunning. First syllable stress. One more time. Stunning. Okay. And also landscape. One more time. Landscape. Okay. And together, stunning landscape. Stunning landscape. Okay. And to go sightseeing. Again, this is more pronunciation than knowing what it means for you. Sightseeing. Get that T at the end of sight. So many students will pronounce this sightseeing, sightseeing. No, sight, sight, sightseeing, sightseeing. Okay, one more time. Sightseeing. Okay. And I'm not going to have you guys practice those yet. I want to go to speaking part 2 tips with the time that we have left before our next break. Let's go through these tips. We'll take a smaller break this time. When you come back, you're going to practice quickly and then do a little bit of speaking with me as well. For speaking part 2 tips, I know a lot of you have practiced it before, but let me just give you a few quick reminders here. Get your idea as quickly as you can. What does this mean? It means don't waste time brainstorming lots of possible ideas to talk about. Decide on one as quickly as you can. Oh, okay. Sit there and looking at your notes is not going to help you, right? You have just that 1 minute for notes. Get on a direction. Don't try to debate between two in your own mind. Take the first idea you get, if that is good enough, and go on with that. Get your structure ready. Now, I always advise my students to follow the order of the task card from the beginning of the question down the suggestion lines. Do you have to follow that order? No, you don't. It's usually in an order that's pretty sensible. If you want to flip-flop parts of it, you definitely can. I would say you should try to address as many parts on the task card as possible, but you can switch the order of your answers. Okay. Again, you can follow the bullet points. You don't have to. You can use a slightly different structure if you'd like, but try to address most of the bullet points that are on that task card. Write down your key points briefly. Do not be writing sentences. Do not try to use memorized phrases, as we'll see in a little bit here. Okay, just your brief main ideas that you can follow along as you go. It helps you focus on your language more when you're speaking by writing down a map of how you're going to lay out what it is you're going to say. You know, on part 3 last week, a lot of you were doing so well, and then the end of it would kind of get lost in space and disappear towards the end. With writing test, or with speaking part 2, what's nice for you is that you have that next question you can go to. So if you're kind of noticing yourself getting lost, you have that down in front of you. Go to that next point and carry on from there. Don't fizzle out your answer and get stuck thinking, no, follow the plan that you had. Go to the next point. Okay, write down just 2 or 3 words for each point when you're taking your notes. You don't have to write full sentences. Have your first sentence ready. That's one thing you want to come out strong with, okay? Especially as we were looking at earlier, if it's asking you a conditional question, if you could, come straight at that examiner with a conditional answer at the beginning. Well, if I could go anywhere, I would go to. Really put it in his or her face, the examiner. Show them, I understand this is conditional, and bang, here's your conditional response right away. And then from there, go on with the rest of your answer. This way you're coming out with a confident start. You're showing the examiner your skills right away, that you're answering in the way that he wanted you to answer. Okay, students, let's stay right there. It is right now 5 minutes before 7.